Dude, yeah, it's awesome. You know, all these payouts are coming out from the carriers now, from AEP. And man, it's a tough thing for most people to do, to not get paid for a month and a half, almost 2 months, and still put in the work, right? But as we both know, that persistence is always going to pay off. The ability to just stick in the game and almost just love the delayed gratification, right? Many people don't actually admire the delayed gratification. They actually shy away from it. I mean, we're in a society nowadays where people just want things immediately, like they want things fast, right? I'm the same way, but you know, over the past 8 years of being an entrepreneur, you know, it's like, man, like you gotta hone into the delayed gratification. You gotta learn to love it. And you know, that's something that's helped me, and just being able to continuing to persist, right? Persisting until successful, you know, sticking in the game longer than many people stick in the game, because many people are going to throw in the towel, many people are going to quit. Whereas, like, man, the highly successful, they just continue to persist, they continue to stay in the game. And it's cool to see, you know, some of our partners within LC Financial Group, you know, they're getting paid out, you know, $15,000 checks from you know, a month and a half worth of work, and that's just the first week. They're going to continue to get more in these next few weeks of January. And you know, it also gives them a clear evidence that, like, the work that they put in is going to pay off. It's going to pay off, right? And that's the viewpoint that you got to have with anything in life when you're moving towards goals or targets. Like, hey, like, the work that you put in, it's always going to pay off in one way or another. It might not be a financial commission, but it could be a commission of, like, increased self-esteem. It could be a commission of increased knowledge, you know? So there's all these different forms of commissions, and it's not just financial, right? So it's cool to see, you know, the fruit of our labors get paid out, you know, and it could be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that you actually get paid out. But man, you just got to continue to persist, continue to keep your head in the game, and limit any distractions, right? So man, it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, just thinking about it, like thinking about when I came into the business, like how much like persistency and consistency, both of them, you got to persist, but you got to also be consistent with persisting. Like I was door knocking final expense leads, and I probably door knocked the same house like 32 times down in Indiana. Like, but my goal was to be so consistently persistent with them, they have no choice but to buy. And it's crazy because the marketplace rewards you for that. It rewards you more than the work you put in. So like right now, obviously we're going through that. We just went through AEP, you know, all of our checks are starting to get paid out. But like you said, having the mental clarity to know, okay, all I got to do is keep doing what I'm doing. And in January, everything's going to pay off. Very few can do that. Very few. And it's great to see that us like-minded individuals have collaborated. We've all gotten together and we just push each other to be the best we can be. Because of course there's days where, you know, it's hard to see the end of the tunnel. It's hard to see, you know, the reward because it's not there. But when you're around like-minded individuals who consistently push you to be the best you can be and keep reminding you that the marketplace rewards persistent people, it's not going to reward spotty results. It's not going to reward, you know, spotty efforts. Like if I decide to work Monday and not the rest of the week, like I'm not going to get a paycheck. And it's crazy because a typical 9 to 5, you get paid regardless of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it cultivates that, oh, I'll just turn it on and turn it off and turn it on and turn it off and come and go as I please because you're so used to being paid. But when you get into a business like we're in, or even any business for that matter, you continuing to show up is what's going to continue to bring results greater than what you could have ever expected.
100%. And the cool thing about it is that both you and I have just been through so much in life prior to getting into insurance. And, you know, it allows us to be like more persistent with just sticking in the game, because we know that through all the failures, the heartache, the challenges that might come up, there's always going to be a reward on the other side. There's always going to be an opportunity on the other side. Right. So just continuing to persist, and also just loving the challenges, loving the problems that might come up, and always knowing that, like I said, as long as you continue to persist, there's a great reward on the other side. There's a massive opportunity on the other side. So when it comes to business, there's always going to be times where you got to pivot, you got to adjust, things are going to change. And with that comes like, hey, you got to be consistent with your ability to continue to show up no matter how you feel, right? Because man, we could tell a great story about, man, we were in Indianapolis, dude, and like I was sick as a dog. I was, dude, snot running down my face. You know, this was maybe 3 years ago when COVID was pretty relevant, and you know, whatever disease was going around, bug was going around, and dude, we were still in houses, like I was still presenting to people. You look over and you're like, dude, like this dude is just dripping with snot, man. Like, dude, it's just like you got to just show up no matter how you feel. And that's what's really going to reward you, as you said, Bilu, in the marketplace. The consistent persistency is what's truly going to reward you and truly going to pay you out, right? Many people, man, and it's like, man, they do it for like a year, they do it for 2 years, and they don't see the results. Maybe you just got to stick in it for another month or 2 months or 3 months. But then some people quit. Some people throw in the towel after it's been a year or 2 years. They're like, oh, it's not working. I'm gonna go to some other career, some other industry, instead of just sticking in there, right? I mean, like the opportunity, it might not come as quick as you would so desire. It might not come as quick as you would want it to come, but it's gonna come. It's going to come. So man, it's crazy, man. Like I see so many people just, man, they show up for a little while, they don't get the results, and they're like, oh, this doesn't work. Oh, this isn't for me, right? All those negative thoughts and ideas and beliefs, right? And it's from like this past programming that they've had. Like they've had past previous situations and experiences where they were all in with it and it didn't pay out. So now it's like it's a memory. It's a memory that they have within their mind, and they kind of just get reminded of that in future situations. So man, it's just stick in there, right? Whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, like it's gonna pay off. It is gonna pay. It's bound to pay, right? And one of these quotes from Be Obsessed or Be Average, GC says, "Stick and stay. It's bound to pay." One of my favorite quotes right there.
Yeah, dude, that's it. I mean, really in a nutshell, that really is it. Like it even goes as far as like even outside of business. So like for myself and even for yourself, like fitness is very, very big to us. Like it's very important. Like, but you're not going to go to the gym like these New Year's resolutioners who are like, I'm going to start working out. They get in the gym for a week and they're like, oh man, like what? I don't even, my muscles didn't even grow. Like it's all about being consistent. Like from the time that I started working out, like I'm like, man, I want the results. Like I can't wait to, my muscles to grow, my mind to grow, like everything, so on and so forth. And I've quickly come to the reality when I started is like, dude, as long as you continue to put forth the effort and you continue to eat right and do what you should be doing, all of the results will come. 3 years later, I feel great. I look great. Just sticking to a consistent plan, the results paid off 10 times of what I could have ever imagined. Like I grew up knowing that I wanted to, lift weights and be fit. And I never thought it would be like this though. And even in business, like even when I worked a 9 to 5, like showing up, I was just showing up to get a paycheck. I really didn't care, like to be consistent on whether it was being on time or being the best I could be. And once I got into business, like being consistently persistent is what allowed me to really get to where I was at. I remember the very first thing you told me is like, dude, you'll never get where you want to be if you just show up half the time. You'll never get where you want to be. And I remember that same exact trip. You're like, I think it was a Thursday. You're like, yeah, we'll ride out, and we rode out. And that's when the boogers were running down your face. We were still selling deals. That Friday, you texted me and you're like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to go out. You can go out though. And I'm like, okay. I wasn't even like comfortable pitching. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go out and see what happens. Absolutely. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to persist until something happens. And I remember I sold my first deal without you. And I sat in a parking lot for like 10 minutes and I just couldn't stop smiling because I'm like, God, wow. Like just the simple words of showing up daily is what's going to give you the results. who would have known? And that client that I sold, he's still on the books today. I've sold him multiple times, multiple products. And it's just crazy because if you didn't tell me that, if I didn't know that, and if I didn't push myself to really believe that, I wouldn't have gotten the results that I got that day. And it would have even further set me back to have this feeling of unconfidence, uncertainty. Like, so when you're persistent and you're consistently persisting, not only is it going to bring you results, but it's also going to bring you confidence. It's going to raise your beingness, your self-awareness. It's going to change your life all the way around from in every which way, shape, and form. Like, your mindset's going to grow. Maybe you jump into the gym and the physicality of you changes. Like, everything changes from top to bottom when you continue to show up day in and day out, no matter what. And that's what I really love about life is the more you do, the more you show up each and every single day, the more you get, and it just compounds. Like, like you said, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but eventually it will come. It will. And when it does come, like if it's delayed gratification, like AEP is for us, when it does come, it comes, and it comes in boatloads. It comes in boatloads. Could you imagine 1 week getting a $15,000 check, and the next week you get another one, and the next week you get another one, and the next week you get another one? Like, it's hard to fathom. And most people can't see it through, to full completion. They give up in the first month, and they're like, well, I haven't gotten paid. Like, I haven't. Just stick and stay. And it, like you said, stick and stay. It's bound to pay, and it pays, and it's very fruitful.
Mm-hmm. And that's a cool thing that you bring up, Belu, is that like the persistency and the consistency, it stems from all areas of life, all dynamics of life. Like when you're consistent and persistent in the gym, it could lead to you being consistent and persistent in business life and personal life, like showing up every single day, waking up at the same time, going to sleep at the same time, writing down your goals and targets every single day. Like it all revolves around like your entire life. So if one area of your life, whether it's working out, whether it's your business life, your personal life, maybe relationships in your life, if one area of your life you're not persistent and consistent, it could easily creep into another area of your life. So it's a very, very important factor that we have to understand as entrepreneurs, as business owners, that like each area of our life affects all the other areas of our life. So man, it's just the concept and idea of like, man, you want to strive for abundance in all areas of life. You want to strive for high levels of achievement in all areas of life, not just one area, not just two areas, like all areas: spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, familial, communal, like all areas of life. You want to be thriving and flourishing and prospering ultimately. And man, it's like, dude, just surrounding yourself with the right people, right? It plays a huge role. Like you kind of talked about it and touched on it earlier, but surrounding yourself with the right people, right? If I wasn't consistent and persistent, one second here. Yeah, if I wasn't like consistent and persistent, and I didn't surround myself with consistent and persistent individuals, then I'm going to be easily able to like let myself down. But when you have those accountability individuals like you and I are to each other, like, man, just keep showing up, just keep putting in the work. Everything's going to pay out. Like, you need people around you that are doing that, right? As we all know, like, who you surround yourself with matters. It matters greatly, because if you're surrounding yourself with people that, man, they're not persisting, they're not consistent, like they're continually throwing in the towel, they're starting something but not seeing it through to full completion. If you're surrounding yourself with those type of individuals, then what's going to happen? You're going to be the next type of individual that's doing that. You're going to be the next person that's in line to start something, not see it through to full completion. You're going to be the next person in line that has spotty consistency and spotty activity, right? And the marketplace, as you said earlier, is never going to reward that. The marketplace is only going to reward consistent and persistent activities and actions that you do on a daily basis. Like, you have to show up every single day. Showing up is like a daily commitment. Every single day it resets back to zero, right? Every single day resets back to zero. So if you have a bad day yesterday, or a bad week last week, or a bad month, like, always know that everything is resetting, right? And like, man, it's just like, just stay in the game. Like, stay in the game, see things through to full completion. Like, the reason why individuals like myself, like yourself, and like all these other highly successful individuals have such high self-esteem, high self-confidence, high certainty, and they're very enthusiastic and high levels of energy. The reason they have that is because they continue to show up, they continue to persist, they continue to stay consistent, and most importantly, they follow through to full completion with whatever they're doing in life. If you follow through to full completion with what you're doing, you're going to raise your self-esteem, you're going to feel better, you're going to have more energy, you're going to be more enthusiastic, you're going to like life more, because the only thing that's going to pay off is when you actually follow through to full completion. If you quit before you see that reward or the opportunity or the breakthrough, your mind is consistently going to be keeping those wins and losses that you have, whether you know it or not. Your mind is keeping track of your wins and losses. It's like a track record, right? We have this track as spiritual beings that, it's either good track or it's bad track. It's either positive or it's negative. So always knowing that, man, the more that you fall through to full completion, your mind's keeping track of that. You're keeping track of your wins. You're just going to want to do it more, right? Because you know that the reward and the opportunity is always on the other side, no matter how tough it is to get there. But if you don't follow through to full completion, then your mind's going to keep track of those losses. And you're going to be like, you're going to get hit with another challenge or another roadblock. And you're going to be like, oh, well, you're going to retreat instead of like confronting it and instead of attacking it and staying in the game, right? So that's a big thing, man, surrounding yourself with the right people, always knowing that consistency and persistency is going to pay off. And most importantly, always knowing that, man, your mind is keeping track of the wins and losses. Your mind is always keeping track of the wins and losses. So, man, you just want to win as much as you possibly can, because success begets more success. The more you win, the more you're going to win. The more you succeed, the more you're going to succeed, right? And keep that momentum flowing. When you're staying consistent, when you're persistent, you build momentum, right? And success loves momentum. You got to have high levels of momentum with what you're doing, right? It's like man, it's like a train, right? If the train stops, it takes a lot longer for that train to get going again. So, man, it's a big thing, and that's why, man, I love being around you. Love being around our entire group here at LC Financial Group. Because we're all just persistent and consistent. We hold each other accountable, and we're all on each other's back. Like, man, like if you don't show up, like, man, what's going on? What's happening? What's going on in your personal life? Is there anything I can help out with? Right? We're always in communication with each other. And man, you need to surround yourself with those type of individuals. Like, get in a group of individuals that are persistent, they're consistent, they're holding you accountable, you're holding yourself accountable. Next thing you know, like, you're winning. And when you win, you like life way more. Life is so much more enjoyable when you win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point you brought up is just being around people and just staying consistent. I think that's why most people give up on their dreams, is because they don't see that success right away and they're not surrounding themselves with the right people. I think it is also important to note that even if you're failing, you have to be persistent and consistent in failure, because one thing that I've learned, and even if you look back in history, like, how many times did Thomas Edison fail when he tried to create the light bulb? Probably thousands of times. And all it took was that one good time, and it set him up forever. And then he started being rewarded for being consistent. So, like, if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, like, my dreams are being this or being that, but I'm not sure, just go for it. Never look back and never stop, no matter who you're around. Like, just always know that it's going to pay out. It's going to reward you in the long run. And if you're around people that aren't pushing you to be the best you can be, that's something that you need to change. That's something, people need to evaluate, because if you're around 7 billionaires, you're going to be the 8th billionaire. If you're around 7 individuals who are going nowhere, you're going to be the 8th individual. So just knowing your surroundings, knowing your worth, and ultimately failing forward, because a lot of people have the misconception that, oh, I failed, it pushed me back. Well, it could if you let it, but you got to be so consistently persistent that you're failing forward and you're learning from your mistakes. That way, again, the marketplace can reward you. I'd be lying to you if I told you every presentation I gave was the best presentation and I sold everybody. But what I told myself is, how many applications or how many presentations did Ryan give in order to get the results he got? And for me, when I started life insurance, I asked myself that every presentation I gave. I said, "Would you like I messed this one up. Okay, great. But as long as I continue to show up and I continue to go to these appointments, it has no choice but to only get better."
Hmm.
And when you have that mindset, okay, yeah, I failed, or okay, I messed up, but I'm going to take that and move forward with it versus letting it hold me back, is what ultimately is going to determine your success. I feel like a lot of people get knocked down and they let that that adversity hold them down. Whereas, this highly successful are taking that, they're jumping right back up, they're knocking the dirt off, and they're taking that adversity and they're literally just strapping it to their back and moving forward with it.
Yep.
So like just being around like-minded individuals, like you said, who continue to push you, who continue to remind you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because I think that is also a challenge in itself, is having the mental clarity, having the foresight to know that everything's going to pay off. Because there's dark times where everybody, even myself, I'm like, well, is this going to work? And then I think to myself, it has no choice as long as I can constantly show up and I'm the best that I can be in every area.
Yep. Yeah, man. I mean, so many people lack the clarity of where they're headed, what they're looking to achieve. And that makes it even harder to stay consistent and persistent, right? If you don't know what your goals and targets are, if you don't know what you're looking to achieve, if you don't know what you want your life to look like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, then it's going to be even extremely more difficult to be consistent and persistent, right? But when you know, like, man, this is what my life's going to look like when I'm 60, or this is what my life is going to look like 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, and you write down your goals and targets every single day, like, man, you should be nothing but enthused to continue to persist and be consistent, because, man, your goals and targets are so big that they excite you, they make you feel good, and they actually inspire you to keep moving forward no matter what you get hit with. Right, man. There's been, like I said earlier in this, like, we've both been through a lot of things before we got into insurance. For myself, multiple run-ins with the police, got an F5 felony for drug trafficking, right? Got kicked out of my first high school, right? Was on house arrest most of my high school career, right? Hanging around the wrong people. Like, man, like, but that has built me up to who I am. And it's allowed me to be more persistent and more consistent, because, man, like I was saying earlier, like, we're keeping track of all the wins and losses. And the more that you go through things and the more that you just fight your way through and you bulldoze your way through and you just freaking persist your way through, then the more that you're going to do it, the more that you're going to be like, oh, it's just another roadblock. Oh, it's just another time of adversity, right? And you're like, wow, like, I've had this happen before, or I've been through something worse than this. You're like, oh, this is a cakewalk. Right? This is a cakewalk. I can easily get through this. I can easily persist through this. And I know that something great is on the other side. Right? So having those positive expectations and that positive viewpoint of, like, man, like, no matter how long it takes, I'm gonna get what I want. And in order to get what you want, you just got to be persistent and consistent and keeping your head in the game. Man, like, because you surround yourself with people that are negative, people that, want to feed doubt into you. Next thing you know, like, all those goals and dreams and aspirations that you had, they go right down the drain, because you got negative people around you. You got suppressive people around you. You got people that are feeding you doubt and they're giving you unsolicited advice. Man, those people are the root of failure for you. Like, they're going to kill your dreams, right? It's like, you want to kill your dreams quick, share it to a small thinker, share it to someone who doesn't have big dreams themselves, because they're just going to squash your dreams. Oh, you can't do that. Trying to accomplish that, like, it's not even possible, right? But you even mentioned it, like Thomas Edison. Like, there's probably been so many times where he had to continue to do what he was doing to create the light bulb, that he knew that, like, no matter what, like, he's gonna actually figure it out, and he just went to full completion. Right? So, man, big thing there, man. Get away from those negative people. Get away from, those unsolicited advice givers, and always know, be so aware of, like, man, what are you allowing into your life? What are you allowing into your life? because that's going to affect your ability to show up every single day, your ability to persist, your ability to stay consistent, what you allow into your life. If someone's activity level is down or the results are down, I'm always thinking like, who are they around? What are they listening to? Because whatever content that you bring into your mind, it affects your actions, and your actions affect your activity. That's going to affect your results, and ultimately, like man, like it's going to lower your self esteem. It's going to lower your ability to persist, and it's going to lower your ability to stay consistent. So, man, just like we've been honing on for the last few minutes, like man, just keep yourself around the right people. Get rid of those negative people. Get rid of those Debbie Downers or those people that want to shove doubt into your mind or unsolicited advice. Like, get rid of them. You can love, like, maybe it's a family member, right? You can love those family members from a distance. Maybe it's a close friend that you've always had in your life. You can still love them from a distance, but it doesn't mean that you have to communicate with them and be so involved with them on a day-to-day basis, because those people are going to be the root cause of your failure, right? So very important.
It's funny you bring that up, because I feel like 9 times out of 10, it's the people that are closest to you who are always, they've already given up on their dreams, so it's a lot easier for them to say, hey, that's not achievable. Hey, that's not this. Hey, that's not that, because they've already given up on their dreams. And the craziest part is most people listen to that inner circle more than they listen to anybody else, whether it's a family member, it's your mother, your brother, your sister, your uncle. I mean, you're raised your whole life that you can trust them. They're your family, so on and so forth. However, they can be the biggest downfall for you because they're giving you advice that you shouldn't be taking. One thing I learned early on is only take advice from people you're willing to trade places with. So when people give me advice, the first thing I ask myself is, can you live their life? Are you happy? Would you be happy living their life? So the people I take advice from has become very, very, very small, but it allows me to show up each and every single day, knowing that as long as I'm showing up, it's all going to work out. Another thing, and it's funny that, it came to my mind, is our training call this past week, a battle plan. How does a battle plan fit into being consistent? Well, for me, how do you be consistent if you don't know where you're headed? How do you be consistent if you don't know what your numbers are or what you're looking to achieve? And then if you do know what you want to achieve, what are the steps to get there? That's what's allowed me to ultimately stay consistent. Like, I know that, there's a certain number of calls that would need to be made for someone to answer, and there's a certain number of answers that need to, to be made in order to make the sale. There's a certain number of doors you need to knock in order to get into someone's house. There's a certain number of agents that need to be recruited in order for you to have success. So having a battle plan, how would you say having a battle plan has allowed you to stay consistent?
It's one of the most important factors, right? Having that daily battle plan, knowing exactly what you're going to do the next day ahead of you. So as we talked about on our group training call for LC Financial Group, you want to create that daily battle plan the night before, know exactly what you're going to do the day ahead of you, so you can move into that day with speed. You can move into that day with a lot of momentum, because you know exactly what you're going to be doing, right? If you just have a bunch of white space on your calendar, you don't know what tasks and activities you need to knock out, then hey, what's going to happen is you're going to be less consistent and persistent with, actually showing up that day that's ahead of you. So making sure that, man, that daily battle plan is key. Very, very important. And man, I love the fact that you bring that up, because many people don't operate with a schedule, right? Especially if you're 1099, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner. Sometimes we get used to success just coming to us, right? And it's a bad thing that could happen. It's a very negative thing that can happen, is just to get used to success flowing your way. And you got to keep the basics in, having that daily battle plan, showing up every single day, having a schedule, right? And removing white space from that schedule as well, and knowing exactly what you're going to do, because that's going to allow you, like you said, Bilo, to be more consistent and to be more persistent. And that's going to stack. The results are going to stack. It's like a spiral effect. It's like a snowball effect. The more consistent you be, the more persistent you be, the more results are going to come. And the more results are going to come, the more that you're going to win, the more that you're going to enjoy life.
Yeah, yes, sir. It's funny because I listen to a lot of music and everything, and even in books, like everybody says, money is the root of all evil. And I've come to the conclusion for myself I don't agree with that statement. I think the root of all evil is people who give up on their dreams, the small thinkers of the world, because they deprive and they drain everybody else of going after their dreams, their thoughts. If everybody chased their dreams and achieved what they wanted to achieve, there would be an abundance of, I mean, there is an abundance of money, but everybody would have an abundance of money and would be happy living the life that they are, or that they've created. So like, I'm trying to be around the richest people who are going to boost me up to do more and be better, and push out the small thinkers, because the small thinkers is really what's going to steal your peace. It's going to steal your joy, and ultimately it's going to steal your vision away from you. And once it's gone, I mean, not that you can't get it back, but it takes a lot to get it back. Like, you have to really be dedicated, and you have to fill yourself with enlightenment. You have to be around individuals like yourself, myself, our partners at LC. You got to be around the people who are going to relight that fire within you. Mm-hmm. And it's sad to say, but 98% of the world operates on that small thinking level. Well, it's impossible. It's this, it's that. I don't have enough money, so on and so forth. But what they fail to see is if they consistently, even in small increments, consistently showed up and just knocked it away piece by piece, whatever it was, it's kind of like mining for diamonds. Like, you're not going to smack the ground one time and diamonds are going to fly out. It takes shoveling, it takes mining, it takes countless hours of just chipping away at small pieces here and there to finally get what you're looking for. And everybody has this thought that, oh, well, he got it so quick, or he did this, or he did that. Like, I'm sure you've gotten it a million times where, like, everybody always critiques you because you've gotten success so quickly, but they don't realize what you went through to get that. They didn't realize for 4 years of your life, you lived insurance. You literally woke up, you ate, you went and ran appointments for 12 hours, you came home, you slept, and you did it all over again. Or vice versa. You went and ran appointments and ate, however your schedule was set up. Everybody sees the success up here, but they don't see what you went through to get to the success, and being consistent with the right individuals and the right passion. Because that kind of goes back to our first call. When you have the passion, you have the why, and you have a battle plan, there is absolutely nothing that will stop you from getting what you want in life, period.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, man, I appreciate you jumping on here, B-Lou. We're going to come to the audience and the viewers every single Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hope you guys found some value. And, hey, if you want to find B-Lou, where can they find you on?
So Instagram is Real Brian Lewis. Facebook, just Brian Lewis. And then you can also reach out to me via email, which is brian@teamlcfg.com. Would love to hear from you, even if it's just questions, or if you're looking for a career change. Obviously, reach out to either one of us.
Let's go. Everyone have a great day.
Yes,
See
sir.
you soon.
Yep.